guys, and welcome back to Eden. So, in the last episode, we have learned quite a dark little secret. But, anyways, let's just jump right back in. Taking Scion safely into space probably wouldn't be that simple. More so than the number of quality of her guards, the real challenge would be to what extent we could conceal her movements. In short, how useful would I actually be on scene if I became her attendant? Warrant Officer Haruna, I have something I'd like to ask you. Yes. The outside world, what is it like? Huh? For a moment I couldn't grasp the meaning of her question. Since I was born, I've never left this place, not even once. Not even once? You mean you've been here for 100 years? Yes. It couldn't be. No, that wasn't the face of someone joking. There was no point in lying about such a thing. I have always been locked up, and I always will be locked up. Your abilities are certainly valuable, but locking you up in the same place for 100 years sounds way out of line. So she hadn't been shutting herself in for the sake of research, but rather because she was confined to this facility? In truth, I don't know anything of the world aside from this Western-styled house. Why would they go so far? Frankly speaking, I think it's because I'm scary. I concentrated all of my abilities into the development of the colony's ships, but there was always the possibility of me using these skills for other purposes as well. For example, if you were so inclined, you could have created weapons the likes of which the world has never seen. As expected from a soldier. She said that teasingly. But you're quite right. There are certainly those in the upper um echelons of the government and military who thought of that possibility. It's like they think I'm a monster or something. From an ordinary person's perspective, Scion was a savior who had shown humanity the path to survival as it was on the brink of perishing. But if those in power grew scared of someone with such expertise, well, that might not be so far-fetched. But then again, their apprehensions are not too far off the mark. I've thought of many ways I could destroy mankind. It would take a little time, but destroying humanity would probably be far easier than saving it. Did you ever take a step beyond just thinking about it? Even just once? I won't answer that question. So she had thought about how to hasten the end of the world. The fact she hadn't put it into practice wasn't because she was locked up, but rather she wasn't that kind of person, right? Just imagining it sent a chill down my spine. Right now, I don't have even the slightest intention of destroying it. I don't have the energy for that anymore. I may have once been a monster, but my abilities have since declined. Now that I'm approaching death, I have just one small wish. What sort of wish? I asked on reflex. Her somber eyes felt like daggers in my heart. So this emotion was still within me, huh? No matter how vast space may be, if I'm to be locked away in a tiny corner of it, then I don't want to go there. She turned her gaze to the distance. I want to run around on the surface of this planet, even if only once. Even if the world will end, I want to wait for its final moments. Ah, that's deep. It's actually pretty damn deep. Um, I'm not sure what to make of that right now. I suddenly stopped and looked out the window. The clouds were clearing, revealing a serene blue sky extending all the way to the horizon. Staring at it for a while made my eyes hurt slightly. The light was a little much for my eyes, having been exhausted from the night shift. What is the matter, Ro? The maid girl whispered in concern. My shift ended the same as usual. After handing things over to my relief, I said goodbye to Lavie and ran into Alicia on the way back to my room. Nothing in particular. Really? If you are not feeling well, would you like me to have a look at you? I should be asking you that. Are you alright? Yes, since I played hooky. I had a hard time telling how much of what Alicia said was true, but at least her complexion looked fine. But seriously, Ro, aren't you acting a bit strange? Nah. Someone asked me whether I believed the world would be destroyed a little while ago. A person of faith? Sorry, I have a bad habit of telling jokes without reading the situation, Alicia said wholeheartedly as she let out a deep sigh. That seems to be the case. Yes, I suppose that joke is not very amusing in the modern day. So, what did you say, Ro? What was it again? I guess I said something along the lines of it doesn't feel very real. That is reasonable. One can cast aside their doubts until the very moment of destruction, even as everything visibly falls apart at the seams. She spoke in a clear tone. I almost never heard from her. That goes for everyone, not just you. Do you believe it, Alicia? To tell the truth, I was forced to believe it. Forced to believe it? I too was once a scientist a long time ago. So you were. Well, that makes sense. I sometimes forgot, given her usual dress and personality, that she was unmistakably a Felix. It was only natural she had participated in the Earth evacuation project in some form. I was not what you would call a high caliber, though. She shrugged her shoulders and gave a bitter smile. As a Felix, Alicia's intelligence was far above that of humans. It would only be appropriate that at one point she would have worked on the colony ships. No, since she had been born a Felix, she was obligated to use those abilities of hers to save humanity. There were many who did not believe the world was ending when the Earth evacuation project first started. We collected data on how certain the destruction of Earth was, and explained in detail so that the bureaucrats could prepare a budget. That must have been tough. No kidding, Alicia pouted. But since I'm cute and oh so oozing with kindness, the bigwigs would likely not be too tough on me. At least that is what I was told before they unleashed the full brunt of their committees. Although I only told the truth, I was removed from the project for that reason. It was quite troublesome. Was she trying to brag, or was she bitter? As I was pondering, Alicia sighed deeply. Well, it is also true that my work was not particularly astounding, so I was put into negotiation roles more often than research, and I sort of got fed up. So you dropped out? Since Cyan was here, I specialized in developing engines, but Cyan was capable of doing everything herself. The truth is that the other Felixes, the ordinary scientists, and I were unnecessary. Alicia smiled bitterly once more. In her 100 years of life, I was sure she must have gone through things I couldn't even begin to imagine. Wasn't that for the best? Making tea without a care in the world suits you better. I cannot help but wonder as to whether that should make me happy, or if I'm being patronized. I only spoke the truth. As she was deep in thought, I placed a hand on her shoulder. Okay then, I'll get going. You were doing the laundry, right? Uh-oh! Yeah, while I'm at it, would you like me to do your laundry as well? No, I'm alright. Doing my own laundry comes naturally to me. When I joined the army, I became frighteningly capable of handling my everyday necessities before even honing my combat skills. But one of my humble wishes is to wash men's clothes and get a taste of what it's like to be a newlywed wife. Get a taste with some other guy. She knitted her brows and glared at me. It was an expression that I hadn't seen much of until a few days ago. I suspected that Alicia felt we had grown a little closer ever since I returned the radio. She was pretty friendly with me from the start, so it might have just been my imagination. Honestly, you can be so dense sometimes, Ro. Never mind, a good day to you. She seemed to be in quite a bad mood as she walked off. Alicia. Huh? Yes? Nonetheless, she stopped when I called her name. It's nothing. Sorry for calling out to you. You certainly are a strange one, Ro. Yeah, I guess I was pretty strange. If it was bugging me then, I should have just asked her about it. Why couldn't I get the words out? I had to ask about Natsume, about my sister. My shift was over, and I should have gone back to my room to rest. So why was I here? I took a drink of the black tea, made by a private I had become acquainted with. It was nothing compared to Alicia's, but it wasn't undrinkable. It was coming up on a month since I had first been stationed here. According to Scion, this facility would soon be shut down, but such a directive had yet to be issued. These tediously slow days were still trudging along. Oh, if it isn't Officer or Warrant Officer Haruna, what you up to? I should ask you that. I looked hard at the face of my partner, whom I had been with on the night shift until just a little while ago. Well, I couldn't really sleep. Lavie pulled out a chair within reach and sat down in an unexpectedly refined fashion. You know, lately... What? You and Miss Alicia seem quite close. Not really. Alicia gets along with everyone, doesn't she? Even though she was admired by everyone, she had never fallen for anyone. That was what Scion had said. She always looks so happy when she's talking to you, I can tell that much. Even if that's the case, what are you trying to say? You haven't noticed? Miss Alicia has been looking a bit anxious lately. I won't let you say you haven't. You look like you're spacing out, but I know you're always keeping watch of your surroundings even now. I think of it as a bad habit, personally. I was one who had wandered through battlefields unsure of whether I would live or die, and fought to outmaneuver enemies who would employ any means to kill me. I was always honing my senses so that I wouldn't overlook the slightest changes in a situation. I honestly can't tell what it is. I have my guesses, but I'm not completely certain what Miss Alicia is anxious about. But her insecurity may be something that would vanish with some brief words from you. What are you being so touchy for? It wasn't that I didn't understand what she was saying. I just didn't know why Lavie was so concerned about Alicia. Rather, it looked like she was irritated about something else and was venting at me. The sight of thick-headed men irritates me. I don't care for that. They're watching us. The other people in the room were starting to focus on us. I suppose it was only natural. Lavie was one of the few female soldiers here, and setting aside her personality, there seemed to be lots of men with their eyes set on a good-looking woman. The mood's ruined. Yeah. Shall we go somewhere else? Lavie stood up without waiting for my answer. My drowsiness had completely disappeared. As usual, there was nobody to be found at the shooting range. It was virtually uninhabited, except during scheduled practices. We were facility guards who rarely got the chance to see combat, so practice was essential all the more. What are you thinking about? Perhaps we should start our training regimen? Serving alongside troops who are so out of practice worries me. Don't bother. Only a fool would needlessly rile everyone up to get the superiors and their subordinates fuming. Besides, I bet you would survive even if the entire rest of the unit got annihilated. The others' abilities don't really matter. I'd like to increase my likelihood of survival. Besides, no matter what happens, wouldn't you survive too? I wonder. Lavie gently laughed and shrugged. Honestly speaking, I couldn't begin to measure Lavie's abilities. Her every action left no opening, but that was natural of anyone with a little training, so I couldn't discern how skilled she truly was. You know, I've known about you before you transferred here. We've actually met and talked before. That's the first I've heard of this. It was 5 or 6 years ago, I think. Do you remember Operation Intercept at Old Tokyo? Now that you mention it, there was something like that. After the conflict with the enemy landing unit at the bay, we cleaned up the remaining enemy forces and were advancing advancing inland. If memory serves, my unit took heavy casualties. Oh, that's right. I think I got separated from my unit and couldn't make contact, so I wandered around alone for a while. You remember well. And how about meeting me, who was wandering the battlefield alone just like you? Not at all. Hey now! Lavie's fist was shaking. It appears that I have incurred her wrath. Meeting a girl your age on the battlefield isn't something that happens every day. How could you forget that? You're putting emphasis on being a girl, but you were still a soldier, right? I didn't put much thought into whether someone was a man or a woman on the battlefield. When I assessed others, it had been in terms of how competent or incompetent they were, and if they were competent, which field they excelled at. That was about the extent of what I kept on my mind. Anyway, I was mobilized with you, though it was only for about 3 days. Wow. You really forgot, huh? Did you forget what Private Haruna said to me back then, too? Of course I don't remember. I could just about hear the blood vessels bulging from her temples. Of course, that was just my imagination. You were a sniper back then, and a damn good one at that. So much so that you looked like a bit of a monster to me. Now that she mentioned it, I vaguely remembered something like that. As I moved through the collapsed city of Old Tokyo alone, I searched for what few enemy troops lurked in the rubble and dealt with them. They weren't very adept and couldn't tell where the shots came from, so it was simple to take them out one at a time as they scrambled amidst the confusion. There was really nothing else to do. It was a time killer, so I did it again and again. I'm not good with guns, and my eyes aren't great. Wouldn't that mean you were useless on the battlefield? Yes, I was. You told me to watch and learn, but it wasn't helpful at all. Sorry for being useless. I said that? That sounded like me. Well, never mind that. You were kind of scary, killing enemy soldiers calmly and accurately without moving an eyebrow, but I tried asking you something. What exactly? She took in a short breath. I asked why you were fighting. I seem to recall being asked something similar recently. And your answer never changed. You said it plain as day. For someone important. Now I understood. Had I been achieving my original objective? If my determination was shaken, if I were to stand still, I may have been crushed under the weight of the sins I had accumulated. I couldn't afford to be crushed as long as I hadn't yet reached my goal. We were pretty friendly with each other towards the end. We were assigned to separate units, but you were on my mind for a while. Wow, how about that? Oh wait, don't misunderstand. I'm not saying I liked you or anything. Actually, I liked you just a little. But this is no manga. It's not like I had an undying crush for the last few years. You're self-destructing pretty casually, aren't you, Lavie? I think Lavie was waiting for me to suddenly remember our purported meeting from back then. Her frustration seemed to be overflowing since I had little recollection of the event, no matter how much she pressed the issue. Oh jeez, this conversation is not going the way I had planned. I hadn't done anything wrong, so why was I being yelled at? Hey, who is it that's important to you, Warrant Officer Haruna? Do you not look at Miss Alicia because you have that person on your mind? It's of no relevance to you. Of course it's relevant. I'm your partner, now and back then. Just because we're partners doesn't mean we need to know every last thing about each other. I don't know things about you either. There's far more I don't know than do. That's because you don't try to learn them! I didn't blink once, and didn't take my eyes off her. But this is all the time that I have for this episode, guys. Oh man, it's tense now. Gun to knife? Don't bring a knife to a gunfight, Lavie. You should know this. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. And if you liked it, please give it a big thumbs up down below. And I will see you in the next video. Bye bye!